Welcome. I'm Chris McCusker. Welcome to another episode in the Quarantine Management Institute, where we are learning to learn in new ways together. Today's episode concerns listening. Listening is very important in general, but I would argue it's especially important during this survival stage of the COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic that we're dealing with today. I'd like to share with you a kind of listening which is known as non-direct listening. The purpose of non-direct listening is to provide emotional catharsis to another person. The gift of listening. If you care about someone and you want to help them through this crisis, you'll want to listen to them. Listening provides emotional catharsis. Catharsis is cleansing. And sometimes we get tense, our emotions get bottled up, and we really would benefit from having someone listen to us. So this is a gift you can give to someone else, the gift of listening. And it's called non-direct. This particular type of listening I will share with you, it's called non-direct listening. It has two distinct sources in psychology and human relations. And I learned about non-direct listening from my colleague at Yale University, the emeritus great legend, Professor Victor Vroom. He explained to me this type of listening and where it came from, and then he shared some rules, and we developed a list of rules together, and I will share those rules for non-direct listening with you. But first, let me say, you had the University of Chicago, the counseling center there, which Carl Rogers, a famous psychotherapist, took over leadership. And when he did, he turned it around and made it one of the more successful counseling centers in the world. His approach that he introduced, he called non-direct counseling. And it was all about getting the client to talk. And he believed that if you get the client to talk about their problems and listen to them, you will provide them emotional catharsis. They'll be able to think more clearly and solve their own problems. The other origin comes from Harvard Business School. Professor Fritz Roethlisberger and Elton Mayo and others did what are known as the Hawthorne Studies. The Hawthorne Studies involved studying the effects of lighting on productivity at a electric plant, the Western Electric Plant in Hawthorne, Illinois, outside of Chicago. The researchers noticed that whenever they showed up, there was a huge spike in productivity. They did interviews. It wasn't successful because they did structured interviews using a preordained set of questions. They decided to do open-ended interviews. They called it the non-direct interview, which again was designed to get that person talking and do everything you can to keep them talking. So I'd like to share with you some rules for this type of listening, which is called non-direct listening. There are 7 rules I'll share quickly. Number 1, get your mind right. You're going to be listening. You want to focus. You want to clear your thoughts. You might have to call someone back, or you might have to say, "Give me a minute. Let me go freshen up, and I'd like to sit down and listen to you." But you need to be ready to listen, because listening is not easy. Listening takes more energy than talking. Right now, I feel great. I'm talking. Listening is difficult, more difficult. Number 2, stop talking. You're listening. You're going to stop talking. You're going to discipline yourself to not speak. You're not talking. You're listening. So if you're somebody who, like me, I'm a professor, we love to hear ourselves talk, you got to say, okay, I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to go into a lecture. I'm going to stop talking. Number 3, don't interrupt. I have been king interruptus many times, having a conversation with someone halfway through their sentence. A lot of times I know what they're going to say. I think I do anyway, so I'll cut them off, and we'll say, well, let me say this, and that becomes very frustrating. You're not going to interrupt. You're going to, even if it takes an hour to arrive at the point, you're going to let them talk and let them finish. Number 4, listen with your whole body. Everything is focused on listening. Your shoulders, your arms, your legs, your head, everything you got, all 5 senses focused on what that person is saying. And when you do, you can experiment with this, and when you do, you'll notice a huge difference in how somebody talks. When somebody's really listening to you, not looking at their phone or not looking at the television or not daydreaming, you will notice the difference. Number 5, don't change the subject. It's not up to you to set the agenda for the conversation. When you're doing non-direct listening, you're not directive. You're not directing their attention in one way or another. You're letting them determine what the subject is for this discussion, and you let them change the subject, not you. Number 6, wait out pauses. There is a need sometimes to fill every gap in the conversation with noise. Pauses are actually good when you're doing non-direct listening. When somebody's talking to you and they're emotional, when you hit a pause, they pause, they're thinking about something, they're processing something. Let them finish. Let them be in the pause, and you be in that pause with them, giving them emotional support. And what will happen is they'll come out of that pause and they'll keep talking. Pauses are good. Let them stop. Let them pause for a minute, and you could write something down, but just pause and listen. Don't fill every pause with words. And number 7, mirroring. There's this idea of paraphrasing that comes from a lot of listening advice, which is, you're gonna say a couple paragraphs here, and then I'm gonna put that whole thing in my own words and summarize it back to you. Mirroring is not paraphrasing. Mirroring concerns the here and now, like a mirror. A mirror that showed you what you look like on average the last 5 minutes would be a disaster. Mirrors show you right now. And so when you're mirroring someone, you're just giving them a cue. You're letting them know, I'm still here, I'm still with you, I'm still listening. And you want to just mirror back the last thing or the last emotion that was expressed. So it sounds like that made you angry, what happened at the meeting at work. Yes, it made me angry, and then they keep talking. Or it sounds like you were very frustrated that the meeting ended and there wasn't enough time to solve the problem. Yes, I was frustrated the meeting ended. There wasn't time. So you're just gonna repeat back in a simple way the last idea that was said or the last emotion expressed. So we have 7 rules for non-direct listening. Get your mind right, get your body right. You're going to listen. Stop talking, don't interrupt. Listen with your whole body. Don't change the subject. Wait out pauses, and mirror. Emotional catharsis is a gift that you can give someone during this survival stage of the crisis. It is very stressful. I'm stressed out. I tell you, I wake up stressed out. To have someone listening is a beautiful gift that you can give. So give the gift of listening. Help each other with emotional catharsis. We'll all feel better, we'll think better, and we'll survive this crisis a lot better.